How's everybody doing today? All right, so let me know what city you're from. Sorry for that. I had to make some adjustments in my life. All right, so let's see here. I see Angela McKinney. Hello, Angela from Atlanta. Good to see you. You guys know the All Black National Convention is in Atlanta. I hope you know that. That's going to be October 20th, and you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com to get information. Also, you can go to boycewatkins.com. I put a lot of information on my website. Jabal out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Michael out of LA. Maurice, Sarasota, Kelvin, B1 to you too. Let's see, James out of Philadelphia, where apparently y'all like to shoot people as much as we do in Chicago. Philadelphia's got kind of crazy. Shamita Pitts, good to see you, girl. How you doing? Out of Philly, also out of Philly, very nice. Rodney Ward, San Francisco. What's up? I saw Houston and Florida and New Jersey for Tracy, and Lithonia, Georgia, Chicago, Dayton, Ohio. Good to see everybody. All right. So today, as you guys know, in case you're new, we do this every Wednesday night in the Black Business School. We do Powernomics training where we talk about Powernomics strategies that will make our families great again, that will allow us as Black people to reclaim our rightful place on the throne. And we have been reading Powernomics probably for years now. I know we read Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. And after that, I think the next book I want to cover is The Black History Reader. That book will allow us to really understand Black history from a real perspective. Most of us never learned Black history. Most of us got sort of white people's version of Black history, which is not the type of Black history that you actually need. And I think that it's important that we learn these things right now as a community for a few reasons. I'm going to write these things down so I can remember the areas I want to hit on tonight as we're reading. Because as you guys know, as we read, I like to talk about what's happening in the world. And there are three things happening in the world that tie directly into the things that we've been discussing. And those three areas are affirmative action disappearing, and what Black people are going to do without affirmative action. Can we survive? How do we survive? The next one is reparations, which is something that has become a bigger political topic lately. They're now talking about it. Before, the politicians wouldn't touch it. Before, the politicians were like, oh, no, we can't say reparations. We can't even say the word. Now the politicians are being forced to address it because of people like us, that all of us that are online constantly bringing it up. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's great. That shows your power. You have a voice, even if they act like you don't have one. They tend to act like people like us don't exist. But if I have 1 million followers on different platforms, you can't ignore me. You can act like you can try to pretend like you don't know I'm there, but y'all know I'm there. Y'all they see me. They see me. I see you looking. I see you looking. And it's okay. I understand. White people told you can't talk about this. So we're going to forgive you for your transgressions, but we will still come tackle that ass. We will still come to you and remind you that you have an obligation to Black people. You owe us something, and we're going to come get it. So reparations is going to be a big topic for the next several years. It's going to be negotiated over the next several years. We're going to have to fight hard, and I'm going to give you some guidelines on some things that I'm seeing to help you decide personally. I want you to make your own decision. I don't think I'm doing this for you. I don't want to do this for you. I'm not thinking for you. I want to help you sort of see things so that see different areas of the conversation so you can decide where you want to fit in. The last one is student loans. Student loans are a big topic because, as you know, there's been sort of a back and forth in the student loan thing. One of the things that nobody's talking about when it comes to Black wealth that we've discussed actually a lot on this platform is how student loans were so instrumental in the destruction of Black wealth. A lot of you, give me a yes in the chat if you've seen this statistic that says that student loans are going to not student loans, that Black wealth is expected to drop to zero by the year 2053. The next 30 years, Black wealth is going to drop to zero. Has anybody else seen that statistic? I assume most of you have. And that statistic, I believe, is heavily connected to student loans, heavily connected. Because what I want you to do is to understand this, for me to illustrate this for you. I want you to understand. I want you to do this. I want you to, in your mind, try to, on the back of an envelope or in your head, I want you to try to add up like the value of all your assets, right? So I want you to take the value of your house, if you have one, value of your car, the value of any stocks you have, the value of your business. If you want to guesstimate that, you can do a ratio. Let's say you do a multiple. Let's say you take your annual profit, multiply it by, say, 10, and that will be the value of your business. So if your business makes $100,000 a year, you have $1 million business. That's $1 million asset. So let me then do this. Okay, so after you do that, I would like for you to also And take that number, right? So you've added up the value of your house, the value of your car, the value of your shoes, the value of your Air Jordan collection, whatever it is, and then the value of everything you own, right? And so let's say that comes out to, I don't know, $200,000. And then what I want you to do is I want you to subtract the amount that you owe in all your debts. I want you to subtract all your debts. That means the mortgage. If you owe a mortgage, I want you to subtract your credit card debt. I want you to subtract student loan debt. And I want you to see what that number looks like. And let me just tell you this: for a lot of you, not all of you, but for a lot of you, that number is probably zero or negative. For maybe I'd say at least a third of the Black community, if you take everything that they own, all their assets, and you subtract just the student loans alone, plus maybe a couple of other items, you're going to get a negative number. That's a negative net worth. So what that has done is that has put the Black community in this weird position where most of your Black college graduates will die with a net worth that is lower than a newborn baby. There will be newborn babies born tomorrow who will have a higher net worth than millions and millions and millions of Black college graduates. And I want you to let that sink in for a minute. I want you to think about this. Think about this. They're in diapers. They can't even talk. They're gaga Google. They just took their first breath, today, right? And their net worth is higher than yours. And you've been working your whole life. You went to college. You got the fancy degree. You did all these things right. But unfortunately, student loans have kind of sort of undermined that, because you basically made a mistake that's common with a lot of businesses. That get what they call over leverage, where you take on too much debt and the debt becomes toxic. Okay, debt is not always a bad thing, but it becomes toxic if you have too much of it. So ultimately, what I would say is, like, these are kind of three big areas that are happening. Three big things that are happening right now. I know somebody wrote gaga Google in the chat. Yeah, these are three big areas that are happening right now that are going to impact the Black community in the next several years, which ties right into what we've been studying in our weekly Powernomics training here in the Black Business School. If you want to get copies of all these books by Dr. Claude Anderson, I wanted to read Dr. Anderson's books first, and then eventually we can read my books if you want to. We can go through my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can go to BoyceWatkins.com or Amazon to get a copy. Also, I have a series called Black American Money. You feel free to go check that out. Also, I have another series called The New Black Power. And I don't talk about my books much because I feel like Dr. Anderson's books should be mentioned first. He is the godfather of Black wealth, in my opinion, in terms of economic thinkers that are often ignored but should be heard. And I'm going to make sure he gets heard on this platform. And it's really very telling that that he's so powerful that they're still afraid of him. That he's so accurate about what Black people are owed when it comes to reparations and things like that they don't even acknowledge his existence. It's crazy that this person knows so much information about how much you're owed, and they'll literally stand up there and say, well, we don't know how much Black people are owed. We don't know how much they should be paid in reparations. And you've got people like that who wrote entire books on reparations. He already did the study. He already did all that analysis, and they're acting like it doesn't exist. And then they'll say, we don't know the answer. I think this really speaks to the stupidity of politics. It also speaks to the nature of the beast that you're dealing with. You're dealing with a beastly scenario where there's this guy who's recognized by millions and millions and millions of people. When Kanye West called me, first thing he asked me was, how can I talk to Dr. Anderson? When Ice Cube called me, first thing he asked me was, how can I talk to Dr. Anderson? They didn't, who wants to talk to me? Nobody wants to talk to me. They wanted to talk to him. Charlemagne the God, Tiffany Haddish flew to Dr. Anderson's house to meet him directly because even they acknowledge that he's the godfather of Black wealth. Diddy, your favorite celebrities have called Dr. Anderson. So this guy is recognized by millions and millions and millions of people for his extraordinary work. So you got to ask yourself, why are the politicians acting like he does not exist? Why are the so-called Black leaders acting like he doesn't exist? Why are a lot of mainstream people acting like this isn't real? So my job is to help make it real. That's it. I just want to help make it real, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to fight for. So I just want you guys to know that all this training that we do in the Black Business School, it is definitely politically motivated. If you want to know our agenda, we do have an agenda. Our agenda is the Black agenda. That's the B1 agenda. That means that we believe Black people can and should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black-owned businesses. That's our agenda. We believe that Black people need to and should and can build all the things for ourselves that other people will not build for us. Not only can we do it, but we have to do it. We have no choice. And this is where a lot of my conversations go back to. Just this morning, I was talking about the great Michael B. Jordan, the extraordinary actor that he is, and how he made a $217 million investment in Formula One, which I think is going to make him a lot of money because he's smart, and it's a good place to put money. But I also said, you do remember that black people actually had a racing league of our own called the Golden Glory Sweepstakes 100 years ago that was destroyed by things like integration. Integration destroyed that. And so really, I want to go back to the days where we're not sort of hoping that that the white man will give us opportunities or open doors for us. I want us to get to a day where we own the doors. I want us to. I don't want us fighting to get a seat at the table. I want us owning the table, building the table. I don't want to be climbing the corporate ladder. I want to manufacture ladders. I want us to mass produce so many damn ladders that people are begging us to get a chance to climb a ladder. That's what I want. I don't want us trying to climb other people's ladders because we're the original ladder makers. We didn't just make ladders. We actually made ladders to climb up Egyptian pyramids that white people still can't build to this day. So what I'm saying to you is that this is a matter of confidence. It's a matter of training. It's a matter of setting the mission. As my friend D1 at Harvard says, he's a great rapper. He's at Harvard University now. He's my buddy. I love him. And I talk about him every chance I get because I think he's great. He talks about mission vision. You know, what is the vision and what is the mission? Our mission is ownership. Our mission is self-development. Our mission is rebuilding our families. Those are just three things that we must do in this generation in order for us to be great the way we're supposed to. And I'm going to tell you what, I think with the loss of affirmative action, that was not a good thing. I did not agree with the Supreme Court ending affirmative action. In fact, give me a yes. How many of you also agree that the end of affirmative action was not good, that it wasn't fair? You give me a yes if you would have liked to have seen affirmative action continue. I want to see where you guys stand on this. I don't have a problem with affirmative action. I think affirmative action was fine. I think the problem, though, with affirmative action was that even when affirmative action was in existence, it wasn't really to our benefit the way we thought it was. It wasn't to our benefit the way it originally was, right? In fact, the more I study the history of people like Clarence Thomas, the more I realized that Clarence, in my view, I think Clarence flipped the script and became a different person because he saw the opportunities that affirmative action was giving black people in the 1960s and 1970s. If you look at the history of Clarence Thomas, who is probably the most hilarious, most comical Supreme Court justice of all time. I don't even care if you're a Republican. If you're a Republican, I still bet you that even if you're a Republican, you have issues with Clarence Thomas, not because he's conservative, but because he's just not that bright, right? And he's just a little bit weird, and he just does things that don't make any sense. He just doesn't, right? And so anyway, if you look at the history of Clarence Thomas, before he married Jenny, the white lady, he was married to a black woman. I can't remember her name. I don't have her name in front of me. I think it was Battle. I think her last name was Battle. And so he was married to a black woman. He had a poster of Malcolm X. How many of y'all knew this? He had a poster of Malcolm X on his dorm room wall. And also before that, Clarence Thomas did not believe in interracial marriage. Did you know that? In college, he literally was like, we shouldn't be mixing racism. He was more radical than me. I don't care about interracial. I mean, if you marry somebody that's not black, that's your business. I don't judge you for that. I wouldn't do it. I don't, and I think that I give honor to people who are focused on, if I fall in love, before I met my wife, I always said, if I fall in love, I can choose who I'll fall in love with. And I've met pretty women, white women. I've met nice white women. I just did not allow myself to fall in love with them because I wanted to fall in love with a black woman. So it wasn't anti-white. It was really more pro-black that drove my decision making. But I'm not against it. Like, it's like, okay, if that's who your spouse is, now at that point, I want to see what kind of person you are. That's all I care about. Kathy Ambush. That's right. And so you know what it was? I thought of the word ambush, and it made me think about battle. I know, like you ambush somebody. It was like, so I thought it was battle. I knew it was some type of aggressive, like, I'm gonna beat you up kind of. And Kathy Ambush, that was her name. Thank you so much for that. And Clarence, just did a whole complete flip flop. And I think that the flip flop was because Clarence had access to affirmative action for the first time. And he said, hey, wait a minute. If I play this game and I get in and fit into these systems and structures, then I can get opportunities. I can get a chance to go and become a Supreme Court justice. I can get into Yale University. I can go and sort of not have to deal with the struggle that comes with being black. So a lot of the black struggle, in my opinion, historically, has really been for the tough, for tough people. If you're a weak person, then the black liberation struggle really isn't for you. If you're a black man who can't handle the challenges of being a black man, then yeah, maybe you should marry a white woman because maybe she'll pamper you or something and help you through whatever trauma you're feeling, as opposed to dealing with a black woman who's also traumatized and is going to require patience. And you're both You're both fighting with this. You're both fighting racism together. I don't know. Maybe it's a black woman. Maybe because black men make you sad or something, or the black men in your life have disappointed you. Maybe your solution is I'm going to marry a white guy because he's going to he hasn't been through what a black man's gone through. So I get it, right? So for those of you that are really knee deep in the struggle and who've made those investments in the community, I thank you for that. I thank specific people. I thank the black women who put up with us, even though we don't have as much money as white guys. Like, I think it'll be a long time, if ever, before a black man on average has the same amount of money as a white man. I think that. So I think that if you're picking husbands based on things like who has the most money, it's hard to compete with a white man because white men can print money. Do you understand what I'm saying? White men can literally, they're the only people on the planet that can really print dollar bills and have it be legal. If we print dollar bills, we go to jail. They print dollar bills. They win Nobel Prizes and get to go to Harvard and stuff. Number two, I also want to be thankful to the black men that love black women, despite the fact that most black women didn't even get the honor of growing up with a father who loved them. So despite the fact that many people act like they're fine and black women are not traumatized because they all get master's degrees and stuff and have money in the bank. No, I think not having a daddy does affect you. It affects a lot of things in your relationships. There's a lot of healing that has to occur. A lot of black women grew up with a ton of trauma and they just sort of deal with it. But I don't think you should just deal with it. I think you should really get a therapist if you want to be a good spouse or a good human being or good for the people around you. That's just what I believe. I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to everybody who's doing their best to be a proactive and conscientious parent. Right. So the conscientious parents are the people that are going to lead us out of this situation because you're raising children that are going to continue the Black economic revolution. You're raising children that are also going to continue the tradition of creating strong Black families, which are critical to build a strong Black community. You're going to create the B1 kids, the B1 babies, that's what we call them, the B1 babies that are going to grow up and run these billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies that are going to change the world. They're going to do things that Black celebrities can't do to this day that they don't do, which is they're going to be creating thousands and thousands of jobs. So when Michael B. Jordan made his investment, I said, I think that's a really great investment, but I'm really looking for the celebrity who can come back and say, I created 80,000 jobs in the Black community. That's the guy I want to roll with. That's the woman I want to talk to. Is the one who says, I created 80,000 jobs for Black people. And you can go to my old neighborhood. There used to be poverty. There used to be despair. There used to be abandoned parking lots, abandoned buildings. There used to be all this chaos. And now there's order and it's beautiful and it's wonderful because we came back and we put industry in those communities. A lot of your most violent Black communities that exist right now, pay attention. A lot of the most violent places in America, whether you're talking about a place like a Milwaukee or a Chicago or a Gary, Indiana, a lot of these places became violent because the jobs left, the industry left. And this was one of the dangers of having a community that became heavily dependent on jobs, because when those jobs were gone, your dignity was gone. And I talked to a man, I kid you not, I talked to a Black man one time. I gave a speech. I promise I'm gonna get to read the book in a minute, but I got to just start the conversation where God intends for us to start it. And I was in the car, and I spoke for the National Black Chamber of Commerce. That's what it was. The National Black Chamber of Commerce had me speak, and I don't remember the name. Ron Busby, I think, was the president. And I don't know if he's still the president, but I like this guy a lot. I came in and I gave the speech. And whenever I'm speaking for more mainstream institutions, I'm always concerned. I'm talking to myself. My internal dialogue is like, okay, boys, don't get these Negroes fired. Don't get these Black people in trouble. They don't go up here, say stuff. Don't give too much truth, because you're going to get somebody in trouble. They're going to get fired. They're going to lose their sponsors. And I went to Busby and I said, okay, so what kind of speech do you want? Do you want a speech that fits, or do you want a real Boyce Watkins speech? Like, do you want true Boyce Watkins? Because that's kind of spicy. That might burn some people's tongues a little bit. Or do you want the whole Boyce Watkins? He said, we want the whole Boyce Watkins. I said, okay, gotcha. So I gave the speech, laid it all down. I don't know what when I wreak havoc like that, I have no idea what the fallout is after the fact. I know with some groups, they come back and they tell me people got fired, their corporate sponsors dropped them because, I talked about reparations or I talked about slavery or whatever. Ron was strong enough to withstand that. I admire him to this day. But anyway, in the car, I was riding back to the airport, and the driver of the car was a Black man, and I don't remember his name. I don't have his name in front of me, but I videotaped him because I was so intrigued with what this guy was saying. And because I was clear that he was more than just the driver. He wasn't, not that there's just a driver. Like, drivers are respected, because how are you gonna get anywhere without the drivers? But it's like this guy had a story. And one thing he told me was, he said, I've never ever had a job in my life. He said, I've never had a job. And I said, really? You never had a job ever? And he said, nope, I'm 62 years old. I never had a job. And he had a real deep voice. And he was telling me the story. And I said, so where did that come from? So I said, you don't mind if I record this, do you? And he said, no. He said, when I was a little boy, I remember my father working really hard and going to the steel mills. He said, my father had this good job at the steel mills, and that was how he paid the bills. He said, when the steel mills left, he said, my father was devastated because all he knew was steel. All he could go do was steel work, and there was no steel work in the town. He said, and that was when you had the rise of the winos. Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. You had a rise of black men who sit around with nothing to do, because they've got in finance, we call this human capital. They've got this almost like an economic graveyard of wasted, unutilized human capital. It's like having a garage full of cars that you can't drive because somebody told you can only drive that car to the store and somebody shut the store down, right? And that's what it's like having a backyard full of gold and diamonds, and they just sit there in the ground because nobody knows what to do with a diamond. Nobody knows what to do with gold. Your black men and their potential and their greatness and their work ethic, that is gold. That is an unutilized, untapped resource. But if you don't know how to use the resource, and you think, okay, I'm going to use the resource when the white man comes by and shows me how to use it, then you're going to sit there and it's going to waste away. It's going to rot away. It's going to turn into nothing. That's when you started. That was a multi-trillion-dollar loss for the black community. That's a multi-trillion-dollar drain of black resources. Think about this. You've got this young black guy who could be doing anything, who could be out here busting his butt and making money and succeeding and doing all these other things, but nobody gave him any set of skills other than the ones that white folks wanted him to have. And the one skill white people wanted him to have was the one skill that they controlled, because once they took away the steel mill, he had no use for his time. Your time is always a valuable commodity, even if white people don't want to use it, even if you're unemployed. So what I'm saying to you, what I'm proposing to you, is that as a matter of national security, black people should never put ourselves in a position habitually where we are dependent on one group of people or one source or one possibility to allow us to use our human capital. Do you follow what I'm saying? I'm using the term human capital. Some of you may have heard me use it before. Some of you may not know what it is. All it is everything that you have in your life that's valuable, that could be utilized to do something that's going to benefit you, right? It's your free time. Think about this. When you go to work 40 hours a week and they pay you $40 an hour and they pay you $1,600 for your time, they don't give it to you because they like you. Nobody likes black people. Not like that. They like the way you dance and they like to steal your culture, but they don't really like you. Nobody want to be black. Nobody will really like black people that much. They kind of like you, but not that much, right? They give you this money because your time is valuable. That degree is valuable. That skill set you have is valuable. That work ethic is valuable. So what I really need you to understand is that this is not a scenario where just because they don't see the value, that doesn't mean you're valuable. That's like being in a relationship with somebody where you only think you're attractive if your stupid partner tells you that you're attractive. You got this abusive partner who says, well, she made me mad, so I'm going to call her ugly. That didn't magically make you ugly. If you was ugly before, you just been ugly. Maybe you just didn't know it. Maybe he made you think you were beautiful and you really weren't. Or maybe you were beautiful all along, and him not saying that you're beautiful anymore doesn't make you unbeautiful. It does not. Your looks didn't change. That's my point. And the other thing too is that if you really are able to see it for what it really is, you would know that if he doesn't think I'm beautiful or if she doesn't think I'm attractive, well, then maybe I need to relocate myself to go to a place where somebody does appreciate what I bring to the table. Maybe I can be attractive to somebody else. Location is everything. But in order for you to see that, you got to kind of have some self-esteem and awareness and understanding of the inherent value of what you have. You can't only believe something's valuable because your oppressor tells you that it is. Right? I can't sit here and say, well, my time is worth $40 an hour, but only if they offer me a job. No, if they lay you off, your time is still worth $40 an hour. It's probably worth more. You just might have to change the location. Use your time for something different that's going to allow you to get that $40 an hour out of it. The value doesn't decline just because they decided they don't want you anymore. But what happens with the winos is that they put themselves into what we in economics and mathematics, we call that a constrained situation. You put yourself into a constraint where you said, okay, I'm going to learn how to do steel, and that's all I can do is steel. And if they never ever ask me to come back and do steel, then I have no value at that point. And that is the most dangerous place a human being can be, because when they take away that avenue that you've become accustomed to in terms of utilizing your talent in your free time, then you're going to feel like you're completely worthless. It happens all the time in sports. It happens all the time in sports. Let me give you an example. There was a great quarterback that played for the Tennessee Titans and also played for USC, named, I think it was USC, or maybe it was Texas. I'm sorry, Texas, named Vince Young. Anybody remember Vince Young? I don't know how many of y'all remember Vince Young. Vince Young was a hell of a quarterback. He played for Texas. I watched him single-handedly win a national championship over USC. That's why I was thinking USC. He won it over USC, and then he went to the NFL, and he became a pretty good player in the NFL, but he never became the player that he thought he was going to be. So Vince Young, I remember the day I felt sorry for Vince Young was when he was in college, and he had just won the Heisman Trophy, I believe, and they put him on the cover of ESPN, the magazine. And the reason I feel sorry for Vince Young was because I saw one quote that really bothered me and concerned me. And that quote was something like, "I was born to play quarterback for the University of Texas." I read that quote, and I said, that's a very dangerous thing to say. This is when I was much younger. It was almost 18 years ago. So I'm 34, 35. I've been on the faculty of Syracuse about 3 or 4 years. So I was smart enough to see things, but I didn't know things the way I know now. My economic awareness, my intelligence, all that stuff, it has grown a lot since then. Okay. But even then, I wasn't a stupid guy. And I remember reading this, and I said, this is not good. This is very risky. And the reason I felt like it was risky is because I said, if they ever tell this boy he can't play football anymore, he might kill himself. Literally, he might go jump off a bridge or something, because he literally thinks that's what God put you on this planet to do. Do you understand how deep that brainwashing has to be for you to believe that the only purpose that God put you on this earth for was to serve the University of Texas as a quarterback? Unpaid labor, by the way. I mean, really, think about how deep that brainwashing has to go for you to really define yourself based on whether or not white people will allow you to play football. So lo and behold, what happened to Vince? He got to the NFL. He did okay. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't the quarterback that he thought he was going to be. And he ends up a few years later getting cut from the team, or he loses his starting position. Then I think he got cut from the team or something like that. And then next thing you know, there's a report, Vince Young disappears, and everyone's worried because he seemed like he was suicidal. I'll never forget that. And the mistake that I saw was not that he loved football. I like football too. Football's a lot of fun. I played football a lot. I'm still a football fan. The problem wasn't playing football. The problem was believing that is all you can do. That's the problem. If you're great at football, that means you can be great at a lot of things. It takes a lot of focus to play football. You have to be tough. You have to get hit and get a concussion and still get up and keep playing. You have to play in front of thousands of people. So what are you talking? You have to be smart to be a quarterback in the NFL. You're telling me that all that brilliance, all that work ethic, all that intelligence can only be used if you are on the football field and if white people are paying you to do it? Get out of here. That's crazy. And sometimes people listen to me. Every now and then someone will listen to what I have to say. And this was years ago, 20 years ago. I had a football player in my class when I was teaching at Syracuse University. And he was a star wide receiver for the football team. He wasn't All-American. He was like all Big East or something. So, to be all Big East takes a lot of work and you have to have a lot of talent, but you're usually not going to do that well in the NFL. But he was all Big East. So I guess he thought he was going to go to the NFL and have this long career or whatever. Well, anyway, he was the only black person in my class. He had the worst grade in my class. And I said, ain't this something? Ain't this a bitch? This guy's sitting in my class, got the worst grade in class. I'm the only black teacher you ever had at this school, and you getting the worst grade in this class. And there were some dummies in that class. And so I talked to him in my office, and I kind of just said to him what I explained to you. I said, okay, so what I don't understand is, in order for you to become a great football player, you had to work extremely hard. He said, yeah, I had to work hard. I said, you gotta memorize playbooks that are this thick, because and I know how thick they are because I couldn't even play middle school football because I didn't have the attention span to learn all the plays. I didn't know the offense. I was the second fastest person on the team, but I didn't know the offense, so the coach never put me in. So you have to memorize. I got my ADHD, right? And I said, you got to memorize playbooks this thick. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of plays. Remember? I said, and you have to go on TV and play, in front of millions of people watching and 100,000 people in the stands every week. And you're telling me you can't pass my test. I said, nobody in this class can do what you do. Not one single person in this class will ever know what it's like to catch a football with a big defender in front of you, in front of 100,000 screaming fans on national TV. Nobody else in this class has ever done anything like that. And you're telling me that you can't just get a passing grade on this stupid little test. And all I said to him was, I said, look, don't change who you are. I said, but you've got to change the way you think about these things to some extent. Somebody told you that you're supposed to be a genius on the football field and a dummy off the field. Somebody told you that you're supposed to be great at football, but terrible at everything else. And what I'm saying to you is be consistent. You know, if you're going to be great at football, be great at everything. Greatness is a mindset. Greatness is an attitude. Greatness is a commitment. Greatness is a philosophy, a life philosophy that you live by, that you carry into everything that you do. It's an energy that you carry into everything that you do. I said, so just do in class what you do on the football field. And I think it worked, because you know what happened? In the next test, he got like an 89 on the next test. And I said, okay, we had to talk, and it actually worked. Because y'all have no idea how many people I've tried to talk to that just won't listen. You know, oh, you being uppity, you try to be uppity by telling me to, you know, or school is for nerdy people, just stupid stuff that we're led to believe. And I don't think white people have any monopoly on intelligence. So when I tell you guys this is for intelligent Black people, I'm not being uppity. I want all of us to be uppity. We need to all be a little bit uppity. We need to, maybe we can replace some of our low self-esteem with high self-esteem. How about that? How about we take away our embarrassment and replace it with some Black pride? How about we take some Black mediocrity and replace that with some Black excellence? What is wrong with that? Can I say that and not have people think that I'm somehow trying to be a snob or trying to act white or whatever? No, ain't nothing white about being exceptional, about being intelligent. Ain't nothing white about being on your game. Ain't nothing white about showing up early. Ain't nothing white about working your ass off. This is as Black as you can get. The blacker the berry, the greater you'll rise, right? That's what I'm talking. That's Blackness to me. That's what I see. I see Blackness as just literally understanding that you're supposed to shine, like that you have it in you. Everything you need is in you, right? So ultimately, what I see. So let's go back to affirmative action, and then we'll actually, I promise we're going to read Powernomics. I had to kind of start the conversation there because Dr. Anderson's got some things to say about these topics in his book. But I really just kind of need us to understand when you're talking about these issues, affirmative action, reparations, and student loans. The biggest frustration I have with these three areas, these three topics, is that all three of these areas are things that affect you, but are controlled by other people. Affirmative action was a gift that the white man giveth, and it's something that the white man taketh away. It's the white men in the Supreme Court. And now you got other white men and women in the Democratic Party saying, give us your vote and we'll get it back for you. It's up to you to decide if you believe that or not. I personally think that Black excellence will override affirmative action any day of the week. Black ownership gives you the right and the ability to create your own affirmative action programs. A lot of affirmative action is also similar and consistent to what they have in places like Harvard University. Anybody ever heard them talk about and make the comparison between, legacy admissions and say that that's the original affirmative action for white people? Anybody heard that? And I've seen that in action. My wife is a third generation graduate of the University of Chicago. So our children have legacy status. If any of them decide to go to Chicago, they will get preference above other people because their mother went to Chicago, their grandfather went to the University of Chicago, and their great-grandfather all graduated from the University of Chicago. So this does, in some limited cases, benefit some Black families. It ain't just a white thing, but it is an elitist thing. This is very real. So here's what I want you to understand. There's no better legacy benefit that you'll ever receive in your life than you receive when you actually own the company. There's no legacy that will be better than what you get when you are the founder of the organization. Right? So what I'm saying to you is that if we want to create our own affirmative action programs to solve this problem, we have to develop businesses that create spaces in which Blackness is an asset and not a liability. I believe that it's more effective and it's better for your mental health for you to be in an environment that loves you because you're Black, not in an environment that accepts you despite the fact that you're Black. There are people, there are places you can go where they'll say, oh, well, they're Black, but we'll accept them anyway. And I don't like that. That does not feel good to me, because what you're basically saying is I can only fit into this institution if I strip myself of everything that makes me unique and special and powerful. This is how I felt when I was at Syracuse University. I said, man, the blacker I get, the madder they get. This ain't going to work, because this is who I am. This is me finding myself. And as I'm finding myself and seeking to explore and wanting to do research in areas that affect me, that matter to me, that inspire me, every time I do that, you're telling me I'm doing it wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Something's wrong with you. You're the one that went 100 years without promoting a single black person in my field. So stop telling me something's wrong with me. I know it ain't nothing wrong with me right now. Everything's wrong with you, because I'm looking at your track record. It's garbage right now. You're telling me that your hiring record in this area is worse than the KKK. So you need help. Stop pointing the finger at me. Point it at yourself. But it's hard to do that when you're under somebody else's roof. It's hard to do that when you don't understand the game of power. And I completely understand to some extent why they just told me to get the hell out. They didn't want to hear what I had to say, and it makes sense. The more correct I was, the more of a troublemaker I became. And I admit, I don't know how to be polite about these things. When I get angry, I'm a traumatized kid. I get triggered, and I start going off and like, what is this? This is nonsense. This is crazy, right? So here's the thing. So you've seen me go off. You've seen me get triggered. You've seen me just go berserk about something that makes me mad. Well, guess what? I can go berserk as much as I want to, because now I own the company. Do you understand? Now, being extra Boyce is not a liability. That's an asset. I learned something about economics that I want you to understand. And it was explained very well in a short video I saw. And the guy, he said it like this. He said, a bottle of water can cost you $1 at a gas station. It can cost you $2 in the grocery store. It can cost you $4 at a football stadium. And it can cost you $6 on an airplane. He said nothing changed about that water. It's still the same water, still the same H2O in all those 4 places. The only thing that changed was the location. So what he said is that if you're in a space where you're not valued at the level that you should be valued, that means that you simply must consider changing the location. That's true in real estate. A 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Manhattan is going to have a very different value from a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that's in the middle of Idaho. Those are the exact same house, same blueprint, same everything. They're just in 2 different locations. So what I learned in my life, and I want you to learn this in yours, is that there was never anything wrong with me from the beginning. I just needed to switch my location. I was in the wrong place. So what I would say to you is consider that. Always keep your options open, and train your kids to do that. Train them to know how to switch their location, put yourself in positions of power, and then you'll get more opportunities that way. So with the loss of affirmative action, I think that with what's going on with affirmative action and student loans, and really even the reparations debate, if you approach it the right way, all of these conversations in the direction that they're going right now can actually be a positive catalyst for Black wealth. Sometimes when the political tide turns against you, that's when you realize you ain't got no friends. That's when the world has broken your plate. That means the favors you were getting before have now disappeared. And sometimes situations like that cause you to stand up and push harder than you would have when you had false allies that gave you a false sense of security and made you think you had support when really you had none in the first place. Affirmative action was something that was given to Black people as a result of the civil rights movement. It eventually turned into a massive favor for white women and gay people. Let's just keep it 100. That's what it became. And then now it's taken away. I don't agree with the loss of affirmative action. I want to make that 100% crystal clear before I hear people. If I hear another person say I'm a Republican, it's going to drive me insane. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I vote for Black people in every election. But I understand why you do that. You do that because you were trained to do that. They taught you to do that. That's a political tactic. So the other thing too is I think the reparations debate is a huge opportunity. I don't know if they're ever going to give us reparations at the level that we deserve. I think that there are political strategies you can use in order to get it, but also at the same time, you can give yourself reparations by doing very basic things. In fact, since we're solution oriented here, I hope everybody has taken a look at the $5 a day investing plan, which has mathematically proven to take any family that does this simple plan. A 5-year-old could do this. It would take any family from poverty to wealth within one generation. I guarantee it. And so if you'd like to get the $5 a day investing plan, and there's some other stuff we have. There's a list of stocks I can send you, all kinds of stuff. Just text the word stock to 31996. You can get it on a text list. I'll just text you everything. Text the word stock, STOCK, to 31996. In fact, feel free to just take a break and do it right now, real quick, as I open this book. Text stock to 31996, and I'll send you all this stuff. So it's not just me arm waving and telling you what it is. I want to give you solutions that will help you with this. If you do the $5 a day investing plan, your family won't be poor in a generation. The other thing, too, is that student loans are an interesting topic because student loans really tell you what has kind of happened in America. I'm a college professor, so I hate kind of saying it like this, but unfortunately, college for a lot of people has turned into the ultimate scam. It's really turned into a scam, and a job is a scam. And the reason a job can become a scam is because this is one of the few scenarios where you can work your butt off your whole entire life and die with a lower net worth than when you started. And that's absolutely crazy. That somebody who sat at home on the couch and played Xbox all day and never got up is going to have a higher net worth than somebody who got up and went to work every day for the last 40 years. That's insane. So to some extent, if that happens to you, then unfortunately that does make that particular job or that particular path into a scamish sort of scenario. And by the way, some of you are asking what the numbers is. 31996. Somebody type that in, please. 31996. Text the word stock to 31996, and I'll text everything to you. It'll come right to you. The college has become a scam, not because college is a bad thing. College is an inherently good thing. The learning that takes place on campuses is a good thing. The personal development that takes place on college campuses is a good thing. College became scammy because they saw when student loans became readily available, and they became available for two reasons. One, they passed laws to make this funding available, without credit checks and all that stuff, or as many as you would if you were, say, trying to buy a house or start a business. It's much easier to get $100,000 as a student loan than it is to get $25,000 as a business loan. That doesn't make any sense, right? But then also the other reason that the money became available was because they passed the law. Biden and Clinton pushed this law through together. Who was it? The lady that taught at Harvard, can't remember her name. Elizabeth Warren was very much against this law, by the way, which makes me I like her. I like her as a potential presidential candidate for that reason. I mean, as far as like all the different politicians go, I like her more than most because she understood what was going to happen. She predicted the student loan crisis. So this law basically said you can't declare bankruptcy on your student loans. So effectively, when they knew they were going to get paid, it's almost like loaning money and having like these mafia bosses tell you, "Oh, we're going to make sure you get your money back. We'll be your enforcers." I saw a movie like that. It was about a lady that I think it was called The Game, and she ran a poker game, and these people forced her to go into business with them because they basically said, when you loan out money, we're going to make sure you get your money back in exchange for a percentage of that money. And they forced her into the deal, but that's what it was. It was like, we're going to take away the risk by making sure that anybody who doesn't want to pay you is going to get their legs broken, right? So to some extent, the government became the ultimate loan shark because they basically said, no, these loans are this debt you cannot write off. Other debts, if you go bankrupt, you can write it off, get rid of it, just pretend like it never happened. This debt is going to stick to you like an STD. Like it's going to be a financial STD that stays with you for like it is an incurable disease that you're going to have until you pay for our jab, right? You got to pay to get this injection that we're going to charge you for. And once you get that, then you'll be cured. But until then, this debt is going to hang over your head for the rest of your life. So effectively, when that occurred, that's when the universities were like, okay, great, we can increase the price of our tuition as much as we want. If you look at any chart for the increase of college tuition and you compare it to inflation, you'll see that college tuition went up much higher than the rate of inflation. I can show you a chart that shows this, that the cost of college tuition skyrocketed because they said, oh, well, now we've got these people, we got some dumb young 18-year-olds who will sign anything so they can come to college, and because they're not thinking about the future. They're 18. Why would you worry about being 35 or 40 years old? That's 20 years away, right? And then number two, we've got all this funding available. So when we increase the price, they're going to sign on the dotted line and we can charge them any amount and they're eventually going to pay us. And then three, we have the enforcer, we have the government loan sharks, the bouncers, whatever you want to call it, that are going to make sure we get our money back. They're going to show up, they're going to garnish your wages, they're going to keep the debt on your head until you die, right, etc. So student loans, to some extent, was a crisis sort of waiting to happen. And I think that anybody that's smart is going to have to understand that how college became a scam. At the same time that universities were increasing their rate of tuition, other opportunities for education have suddenly emerged. You can get online and learn damn near anything that you want to learn. The only thing you can't get online, of course, is a lot of professional degrees. Like if you want to be a doctor or a dentist or an attorney, then going to a university makes sense. But if you're trying to do other stuff, if you just want to learn, like if you just want to learn history or English literature or mathematics, you can learn all that right there on the internet. In fact, actually, there are companies that have programming classes you can take where you can learn code and then go work at Google, Apple, or Microsoft. Like they'll hire out of these programs. Or if you want to learn a skill, like I think the trades, the fact that we let go of the trades and we just don't even talk about those anymore is crazy. We got uppity. We traded in direct ownership of property and land and businesses for student loans and corporate jobs. And not everybody's supposed to be doing that, right? And in fact, the amount of money that a college graduate earns in this economy has been slowly but surely dropping every year. They measure the gap between the amount of money. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember when they would tell you, like, well, if you get a college degree over the course of your lifetime, you'll make $100,000 more than if you didn't have a college degree. Anybody remember that? Those statistics they tell you when you're about to go to college. Well, those stats don't apply anymore. That gap between the wages of non-college graduates and college graduates has actually gone down. Even during a year of record high inflation, the wage rate of college graduates dropped in the same year that inflation was incredibly high. During a high inflation year, that wage is supposed to go up so that you can keep up with the cost of living. Do you understand what I'm saying? It didn't. It went in the other direction. So this is the new economy. This is just what it is. So if you're buried under student loans, the best way to deal with that, like if I was sitting here under a ton of student loans and thinking, man, how do I fix this? You know what I would do? I would take the free time that I have, and it really helps if you got family members that will encourage you. Get an accountability partner. That's what I did when I lost weight. My wife was my accountability partner. She would make me get my fat ass up and go running when I didn't want to. That's the reason I get up at 5:30 in the morning when it's 10 degrees outside. I can't do that on my own. I'm a strong man, but I don't know if I'm strong enough to do that. But when my wife gets up and she reminds me of who I am and who I said I was going to be. Come on, Boyce, you said you were going to do this. I say, yeah, you're right. I did say I'm going to do this. That gets me up. So find you an accountability partner that's going to help you change your life. I want you to change your life right now. Whatever it is that you want, I want you to commit to that. And then if you can find an accountability partner, and maybe I can help you. If you don't have one, I'll be here with you. I'll talk with you about this stuff. But it also helps if you have somebody around you, a spouse, a cousin, a friend, or whoever, maybe somebody that you're cool with that you don't talk to about as much. Talk to them about this and go. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go study how to create a business or a side hustle. There's of course, you guys know the Black Business School is always here for you, and you can join for free and all that. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. There's plenty of stuff out there. Learn how to create that little side hustle, because that little side hustle can be that one little catalyst that allows you to attack all that student loan debt. And it doesn't take a bunch of brilliant ideas to make extra money. It just literally only takes one mediocre idea. You'll find one thing that people will buy from you that will allow you to increase your income and allow you to have that extra stream of income. That extra stream of income does a couple things. One, it gives you financial security that you don't have with a job. A job is one stream of income. From an economic theory standpoint, one stream of income is very risky, especially when you don't have assets to back that up. If you have no savings, if you have no access to capital, if you have no other streams of income, you have no other marketable skills that can allow you to move and wiggle with the economy, that's a very risky position to be in. So getting that extra stream income gives you additional financial security. Then also it increases your income so you can then take that extra money and apply it to attacking the debt. Or maybe you can use your regular income to pay down the debt, and then your side hustle can pay a couple of bills for you. And so just be creative about it, right? And then also, if you have kids or grandkids and they haven't hit the student loan curse yet, really talk to them about this. We did not send our oldest, to a private school that was going to charge us a whole bunch of money. We just weren't going to do it. We're like, no, we're not spending all that money. Yeah, we can afford it, but we're not spending that money. No. Go to a state school, bust your ass, work hard. You're good, make straight A's and you'll be fine. You'll learn a lot. I did the same thing. We're not going to go spend $80,000 a year for somebody to go to college and learn things that they can learn on the internet. It's just not interesting to us, right? So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not judging you. If you made a different decision, that's okay. Just know the ups and the downs of that. And I think that there's ways to get a good education without falling deep in debt. Okay. All right. So let me read some of this. I just y'all probably didn't expect me to do all this. I literally spent 45 minutes not even reading from the book. I hope it's okay. I hope it was okay that I deviated, but because I felt like this stuff that we read in the book is good. It's important, but I think it's important to also put it into context so we can really talk about what we're up against. So the three big things I see right now are affirmative action, the reparations conversation, and the student loan issue. I think those are three big political issues that are not going to go away. You're swimming into an election year. This year at the All Black National Convention, we're going to put all three of those agenda items on the table. We're going to talk about how Black people can thrive in a post-affirmative action world. We're going to talk about the reparations debate. We're going to have experts like Professor James Small that have been invited to help us guide us on this conversation. We're going to learn from the elders who knew what life was like before affirmative action, before civil rights, before all these things, right? And then also we're going to definitely talk about student loans and debt and how to sort of process this in a way where you're not going to come away with the wrong idea, the wrong approach, and you'll be able to figure out the method that works for you. So just in case you want to know, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com to learn more about the convention. We have spots also for vendors and sponsors. So if you have a Black-owned business, we'll be happy to promote you in exchange for some support because these things are expensive. It does cost money to do these things, but we're going to get it done. And we don't take money from the government. We don't take money from major corporations. We really want to make sure this is independent and Black and all that good stuff. Also this week, I'll be in Seattle in 3 days. So if you want to join me in Seattle, I'll do a 4-hour deep dive training on my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So if you want to fly into Seattle, just go to boycewatkins.com and the information's there. Also, to get those other things text to you, like that list of AI stocks or the stocks that I like, the stocks I'm invested in each week, just text for Dr. Boyce Profit Alerts. That's what we call it. Just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. I'll send you a stock pick of the week. And then also, I'll send you the $5 a day investing plan, the training on how to make money without working. Also, I'll text you just a lot of stuff, anything I think that can help you. I'll just send you stuff. All right. So feel free to get on that list. All right. So here is what Dr. Anderson says in page 241 of Powernomics. His website is powernomics.com. That's where his books are. Everybody should get a copy. One thing Dr. Anderson was talking about is that we have one institution in the Black community that wasn't destroyed by integration, and this is the Black church. And the Black church is a place that really, if you look at the function of a bank, or you look at the function of an investment club, when we're training you on how to form investment clubs, what we're talking about is the aggregation of capital. When am I coming to Seattle? I'll be in Seattle July 8th. You can go to boycewatkins.com, Miriam, and all the information will be there for sure. All right, and so the Black church is really a gold mine. It's really an economic opportunity for the community. Everybody who runs a church should, in my view, have some sort of understanding of just the amount of power that you wield. Whenever you bring people together, that's wealth. There's wealth buried under the ground. Now you can waste it. You could just bring everybody together and not do anything economic, but you're wasting an opportunity. It's almost like if your goal, let's say, imagine if your goal was to increase the population, right? To make people have more babies. And you got, 1,000 girls and 1,000 boys together. But you say, no, we want the boys over here and the girls over there. The boys and the girls can't hang out with each other. Then no babies are going to come out of that, right? There's not going to be any mingling. Lovers aren't going to do what lovers do, if you know what I mean. And so to some extent, just because those people are all together doesn't mean you're going to have babies. You have to facilitate the transactions. You have to create that economy, that trade, if you know what I mean. The trade between man and woman that occurs that ultimately leads to the reproduction of kids. I still remember Father Divine. Anybody remember Father Divine by chance? Father Divine, if you don't know about Father Divine, it's on page 241, by the way. If you don't remember Father Divine, you got to go research this guy. He was amazing. He had this big movement, and it was across different races. And he had like all these millions of dollars and bought all this property, I believe, right outside of Philadelphia. And Father Divine, and it was kind of crazy. He was kind of interesting guy. He was in his 60s, and he had this 16-year-old white wife who to this day, I think she's still alive, and she's still super loyal to him. And all these people would go live on Father Divine's property. And one thing Father Divine did that was real interesting was he did not let the men and the women sleep together, right, on his property. He didn't encourage that. He discouraged it because I guess it was against the Bible or something. I don't know, or in his interpretation. I have no idea. So what happened was his whole movement died because everybody got old. All of his followers are, ancient. They're like 100 years old now, and they didn't have any kids. So there's the movement completely died. And I just remember thinking, like, why don't you just, let people get together, have some babies, and then, and then Father Divine's movement's even bigger in the year 2023. So same thing is true economically, right? When you're all getting together as a group and you're not engaged in some sort of economic discussions, trade, or the sharing of resources, opportunities, networks, whatever, then you're going to completely waste the economic opportunity. You're going to create what I refer to as the opposite of fertile economic soil. In my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I talk about what it means to create fertile soil versus unfertile soil. Unfertile soil is where nothing grows. Just like if I bring together the men and the women and I say, I don't want the boys and the girls talking to each other, then I've taken a potentially fertile situation and made it unfertile. But if I do the opposite and I say, okay, let's do speed dating. Let's play a game where every girl is going to talk to every boy for 5 minutes, right? Then I'm making the ground more fertile. Or if I play some romantic music, or if I make sure I tell everybody, make sure you get at least 4 phone numbers before you go home, or 4 people that you might think about talking to. Well, next thing you know, there's going to be babies being born. There's going to be a transaction, right? So the same thing is true economically, right? When you get together with family, you have to create the fertile economic soil by talking to each other. You have to share ideas, share resources. Just say, gosh, I'm trying to start this business, and I didn't know if anybody has any experience in this area, but here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my greatest problem I'm trying to solve. And then somebody else says, oh, well, I've got some money I wanted to invest. Can I put $5,000 in your business? Oh, great. Oh, I've got some free time. I can come and help you with that. Or, oh, I've always wanted to learn more about that. Why don't we do that together? Why don't we invest together? This is the beauty. This is the magic. This is the economic magic. And you don't need white people to do this. See, white people did some of this. They created their businesses, and then they come and they hire you, and you feel like they're doing you a favor. What I'm saying is you can actually create the magic where you hire yourself. You can get together. I get together with my kids, and we get on the Zoom, and all we do is we just love each other. We just talk, and we talk about the kids. I say, oh my gosh, look at him. Oh, the baby's so big now, blah, 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 blah. And then I say, so what are you up to? Oh, well, I was thinking about trying to start a business doing this. Oh, really? Okay. And then next thing you know, her sister's like, oh, really? I didn't know you were doing that. And then she's like, yeah, but I was trying to do this, and I found this opportunity, but I don't know what to do with that. Oh, well, I can help you with that. And next thing you know, a family business is born. That's where these big corporations come from. That's where the McDonald's is, and the Krogers and the Amazons. That's where these companies come from. It comes from having spaces where these ideas can emerge, and then these execution plans come together. And next thing you know, the magic happens. You find money, and then when you find money buried under the table, then everybody gets excited and everybody wants to be a part of it. All right, so do that with each other. If you're in a church, you definitely should do that because you're gathering human beings, and that is an awesome opportunity for wealth to be created. Where there are people, there's always wealth. Where there's people, there's always wealth, because all those people have money in their pocket so they can become customers. All those people have resources, which things like free time, expertise. If I go to the church, and the church has 1,000 members, and I say, we need an accountant. Can anybody do accounting? A bunch of hands go up. Oh, I need somebody who has legal experience. A bunch of hands go up. I need somebody who can help fix the roof. A bunch of hands go up, right? So, but if you don't ask those questions and you don't create the fertile economic soil that facilitates the transaction necessary for an economy to grow, then there will be no economy. The strength of an economy is measured by something called GDP. How many of you have heard about GDP, or gross domestic product? Give me a yes if you've heard about gross domestic product. Anybody know what gross domestic product is? That's how we measure the strong economies versus the weak economies. Has anybody heard about gross domestic product? Okay, all right. So GDP is pretty much, you know what GDP is? And you know all it is? Pay attention. It's literally the total value of all the goods and services that are traded in a particular space. That's it. It's just how much transacting occurred. I buy something from you, you buy something from me. I paid $25 to you, you give me the $25 back. We just added $50 to the GDP, right? So just the mere presence of trade creates economic possibility, because remember, GDP is the number one measuring stick. GDP is the number one measuring stick of how strong an economy is. So when you have more trade, more transactions, more people mingling and connecting, then you've increased the economic possibilities in that space. You've made people wealthier. So do that. Do that with your family. Action step number 7, page 241, Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson. Establish church-based lending programs. He said every Monday morning, black churches typically deposit approximately $1 billion in white-owned banks across America. In most instances, these are the very same banks from which black people, as well as black churches and black businesses, have a difficult time securing loans. These deposits represent 3 times the amount of money produced and deposited by black businesses in black or white banks. Churches could establish banks, savings and loans, credit unions, or loan funds designed to provide business and personal loans to black businesses. This would provide capital pools for our aspiring business people, while the church-owned lending entities profit from the interest and fees on the loans. One of the reasons that I talked today on my podcast about Michael B. Jordan and his investment in Formula One, which I thought was fine, I'm very proud of that, is that I said, gosh, I wish out of that 217 million, I wish black people and black businesses could get 10% of that, because most black businesses can't grow because they're undercapitalized. They don't have any funding. They're dried up. They don't have anybody investing, because when your biggest, brightest, wealthiest celebrities get money, they tend to invest that with Europeans. So Europeans get richer, black people get poorer, because black community businesses tend to get starved in terms of finances. And I had to say this in a way, I tried to say this in a way where it didn't sound like I was being critical of Michael B. Jordan, but I had to say it in a way where I was going to be honest about that. Because we tend to look to white people as the people that we give our money to first. And I'm saying that maybe you might want to reconsider that, because I think there are a lot of great businesses in the black community. All right, so let's see here. Black churches are needed also as key players in the industrialization of black communities. They should participate in and help administer the Black Business Investment Corporations, BBICs, proposed in Chapter 6. The proposed BBICs will be direct links between the developing industries, related supported businesses, and the black communities. The black churches could benefit by being involved in the leadership and also profit from the interest paid on loans onto a large number of black businesses within the vertically integrated industries. Churches would be members along with other key groups such as traditional lenders, civic organizations, business executives, academics, elected officials, and investment club representatives. Smaller church-sponsored capital pools could also be created. Church investment clubs, for instance, could also function as alternative sources of business financing. Smaller churches should be encouraged to join in and pool their lending capital together with larger religious institutions. So what he's basically saying is that when you have a pool of resources, you pretty much kind of have a bank. Building a bank, I've had people say, why don't we start a black-owned bank, Dr. Boyce? And I say, well, I don't really want to do that much paperwork. That's a lot of regulations in banking. But really what a bank is just a pool of resources where they make investments and loans with that money. That's it. That's what it is. So a university endowment pretty much kind of can and does oftentimes function as a bank. If you have a family, when you do the $5 a day investing plan and your family builds up a couple $100,000 in capital, and if you are able to find some process to make that capital available for relatives who either have a temporary financial emergency or an investment opportunity, then guess what? You've created a family bank. I did a whole training in the Black Business School on that, how to create a family bank. All it requires is for you to have an economic garden. Right? You think about a garden. What's a garden? It's a place where you plant a bunch of seeds, and then you have a bunch of fruit and vegetables and everything else in the back, and anybody who's hungry can go back to the garden and eat food. So effectively, that's all you're basically doing, is you're creating a garden for your family so that you don't have to go eat at McDonald's and give them all your money every time you get hungry, so they can also give you poisonous food. You have food at home. You're growing your own food. So building black-owned economic entities is very much exactly like finding a way to grow your own food and securing your own source of the nutrients that you need in order to survive. We're not trained to grow our own food. We're like the kid who is raised. A lot of us think about this. Think about back in the anybody remember back in the 80s, and maybe you're a kid from the 90s or before that, or the 70s, where we would eat the most horrible crap on our way to school. Anybody remember that? Where you would literally think that it was okay to eat a Twinkie and drink some Kool-Aid for breakfast, and that for some reason we didn't understand how that sugar was literally going to cause us to just go insane and be little crackheads all day long. Nobody knew that. We just didn't know it. But we thought literally you'd be like, what'd you eat for breakfast? Oh, I had a chocolate donut and some chocolate milk. That's what we just did because we didn't know. And so I think of it like that because I didn't think like, or maybe your mama stopped at McDonald's on your way to school, right? And and you're just eating all this crazy food, and and so in a way, like think about that, compare that to a household where the children are raised to be health conscious, where they're raised to understand the dangers of sugar, where they're raised to to eat healthier food that is considerate of the vitamins and nutrients that are in that food that's made by your mother in the house, as opposed to coming from the restaurant down the street or the fast food place down the street or the corner store or whatever, right? That's kind of the same way with economics. So the same way a lot of us were raised to go eat at McDonald's or eat a ho-ho and drink some Kool-Aid on our way to school, a lot of us are trained to get our economic nutrients the same way. We're trained to just go get some job, doing some meaningless, crappy, horrible, stupid work, working with people who are the most toxic human beings on the planet, damn near, and literally stressing ourselves out and living in the middle of that, in the middle of all the stress at work. You're also muddled with the stress of economic security that occurs after work is over. So after work is over, you're still under financial stress because the amount of money that you get for sacrificing all thousands of hours of your life, sacrificing your mental health, sacrificing your physical health, and then just being just unhappy and depressed. Like the reward you get for that is that you get barely enough money to pay your landlord and to give your money away to car notes and whatever else that you have to pay, right? So effectively, we have to back up and really rethink that process, right? So the same way many of us had to relearn from, and understand that eating ho-hos and drinking a Pepsi for breakfast isn't exactly the breakfast of champions, or with Starburst and now laters to go with it. Now we know better, right? And so the same thing must occur when it comes to economics. That's when you can talk to the kids and the grandkids about the downside of having to get up and go to work every day in a toxic environment. I don't even think kids should have to pick careers. I don't think you should have to pick a career or pick a job. If you do the $5 a day investing plan, your kids never have to work, actually, if they don't want to. If they're disciplined and you teach them the right way, they literally don't have to work for anybody, because it's designed so that by the time the child's about 25 years old, they've got somewhere, I want to say, over between $150,000 and $200,000 in the bank by 25 years old. And a person with $150,000 liquid in their stocks doesn't have to go to work if they don't want to, or at the very least, they can pick the job that they want. They can be a little more selective, and they don't have to hurry up and pick a job because they're worried that they won't be able to pay the rent. And really, if you really put your kids ahead, if you do $10 a day or something like that instead of $5 a day, then they're actually going to have twice as much money. So now you're talking about a kid that has over $250,000 at the age of 25. If I had $250,000 at the age of 25, I would have turned down 90% of the jobs that I had to take. When I was 23, 24, 25 years old, I had to do desperate things to get money. I had to work at places like Arby's. I remember working at Hardee's, and they would use cocaine in the bathroom. And I remember this old white lady tried to hit on me. And I remember being 19 years old. This drunk white lady pulls up in the drive-thru, and she's flirting with me. And I'm a kid. I didn't even think old ladies flirted with guys my age. I was very naive. And this lady keeps on hitting on me, and I didn't understand what was going on. And I swear to God, there was a guy who told me, just go have sex with her. She's got a lot of money. She'll give you money if you sleep with her. And I'm like, no, because if I tried to sleep with this lady, I would probably vomit on her. Like that would not work. Like that lady was gross to me. And I remember just, and so here's the thing. I had to be exposed to crap like that, exposed to drugs and prostitution. That's what it was, drugs and prostitution. I literally had a person, and this guy was older. I kind of looked up to him a little bit. And he's like, oh yeah, just go have sex with her and she'll give you money. I'm like, no, that's nasty. And so my point is to say, think about this. Imagine if I had plenty of money. I wouldn't have even been at Hardee's at 4 o'clock in the morning, wondering why the older guys are going in the bathroom and suddenly coming out perked up because they were using drugs in the bathroom. Imagine if I wasn't able to think for myself. Imagine if I was a follower or super naive. I was a little naive, but I wouldn't tell this. My daddy was from the streets. He taught me some things. He kind of prepared me to say no to drugs and all that. But imagine if I wasn't that person. Think about all the things I could have got caught up in, right? So I want you to process this and understand how just a little bit of money can really protect your kids and grandkids from a lot of ugly things they have to get exposed to just to get a little bit of money. Cardi B talks about her life and all the crazy things she did and all the stripping and the prostitution and everything, and she used to rob men to get their money and all this other stuff. If she had a little bit of money, if she had a daddy or a mother or both that just invested, like did what I'm telling you guys about, like a $5 a day thing, where she has $100,000 liquid in stocks that she can lean on, all that whole story changes. So money isn't just about wealth and all these other great things that come with it. Money is about like safety. You know, people that don't have enough money end up in horrible situations. They end up dead in prison with diseases. They just all these crazy things you have to do. So what I'm saying to you is that I hope that you will care about your kids enough to just plan ahead and your grandkids enough to just sort of prepare. Just set up a little thing, a little trust, a little auto deposit or whatever. Have it go into S&P 500 stocks. It's very easy to do. Again, if you text the word stock to 31996, I'll send you a link for free to the $5 a day investing plan. So just text stock to 31996 and I'll send it to you. Okay. All right. So let me keep going here. Let me keep reading. I've just been all over the place today, but I don't know. That's whatever God tells me to do, I'm going to do it. All right, so let me keep reading here. At some point in the future, this is page 241 of Powernomics. Powernomics.com is where Dr. Anderson's books are. At some point in the future, after we have some experience under our belts, the free loan concept used by Jewish leaders could be a model for distressed Black communities. So he's talking about the Jewish community. Administered through associations, these loans do not require interest payments. The concept embodies civic and religious traditions that combine social service commitments to economic development for the poorest people. The loans are made in the belief that a loan is preferable to charity, right? So, and I agree. I think investment is also better than charity, because charity makes the person receiving the charity, it gives them a crutch. It makes them weaker. And it also makes the person giving the charity, they're drained because you're giving, and you're getting nothing back. Money should be reciprocal. It should be a process where that's give and take, like love. You know, love should not be something where you're constantly giving, and you get nothing back, right? You get what I'm saying? Love should be something where you're giving a lot, for sure. Love is hard. Love is hard work. You got to work on it. But love should also be something where you're receiving something back. It should be something where you can say, yeah, I gave up a lot, but I got a lot. You know, I gave a lot to my partner, but they gave a lot to me, right? So this is kind of like a version of economic love, right? So what I do with my family is I don't really give away money that often, and I don't loan, and if I loan money, I kind of want to know what it's for and what we're doing here. How are we using this to progress our lives? And then sometimes I require repayment, sometimes I don't. And what I try to do is understand and remember that money is always a tool. So with all of my kids, one of the things that I did was I said I'm gonna give all of them one big opportunity to level up economically. I'm gonna loan them enough money to make some sort of big economic move, whether it's to do something with stocks, something with a business, or something with real estate. And my position was if they waste it, they waste it. They can't say I didn't do anything for them. But if they use it the right way and they listen to me, then they can be in a better position. So one of my girls, I loaned her enough money to put a down payment on her property. So she bought a house in Atlanta, and she followed through and did exactly what she said she was going to do. I told her, I said, look, you can do whatever you want with this money. Just don't ask me for any more. I'm not going to do it again. And so she buys this house, and she calls me up a year and a half later, and she says, I just found out that my house is worth $100,000 more than it was when I bought it. And she said, I can't believe that I made all this money without actually doing any work. And so that's a good example of some of the things that you might do for your kids that will put them in a better position. Okay, but you got to train them. You got to help them see the vision. All right, or they're going to spend your money on a Birkin bag, and then you have to kill them, and then you end up in prison for the rest of your life. And we don't want that. We don't want you in jail. Prison clothing would not be cute on you. All right, so here we go. He says after at some point, okay, we already talked about the Jewish community. Now this is page 242, powernomics.com. Action step number 8. Provide social and community services. This is what Dr. Anderson says churches can and should do. He says, God commanded his followers to take care of the poor, not to become poor. In America, blacks are so disproportionately poor that being black is almost synonymous with being poor. Anybody else notice that? That like we have like the poverty and trauma Olympics where people think that if you're not poor and you're black, that somehow you're not black enough. You know, like they tell you if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black. If you ain't poor, you ain't black. If you ain't suffering, you ain't black. That's what some people believe. I think all those things, none of those things have to be true. He says, even as the entire black community begins to lift up, those who are economically and socially depressed will need increased social services from black churches. If a black minister builds the biggest church in the world with the largest congregation, it contributes nothing if the church does not render social and community services to black people. It is important that black churches expand their ministries into the communities and engage in projects that lighten some of the suffering of all black Americans. So he's basically talking about just giving back. And I'm really astonished by how there are so many people who just don't believe in giving anything back to the Black community. You know, like when I have to fight with celebrities who think that doing anything for Black people is like a waste of time. Like, well, I don't owe nobody nothing. And then I'll hear from Black people online that'll say, like, why you expect him to do something for Black people? He gonna be fine. Leave that man alone. You know, it's really weird. It's really weird. It's almost like we believe we should be neglected, right? We believe we should be neglected, and I just think that's really strange. I don't understand that. Why we would hate ourselves that much. Like Jews, Chinese, Arabs, and other ethnic groups in America, we should begin to take care of our own as we begin to build a strong sense of community, either within our own programs or in cooperation with community organizations. Black churches are encouraged to refashion established public policies and programs. Powernomics principles should be incorporated into them so that they address the needs and predicaments of Black Americans. With limited funds and lots of commitment, we could craft programs that run parallel to traditional public welfare systems such as food assistance and stamp programs, farmers cooperatives, rent subsidy programs, and mortgage buy downs. We need a network of churches that would eventually provide sufficient services for all of our Black inner cities. Okay, so what Dr. Anderson is saying here is this. He's basically saying that we have to care about our own community because nobody else does. He's saying that this idea that somehow being Black means you're not supposed to care about yourselves, and you're in your own communities throwing trash on the ground and kind of forgetting about each other. That's not going to fly, because here's the thing. Communities tend to do better when somebody invests in those communities. So what I ask you is, when you see all the deterioration occurring in the Black community, when you see all the degradation, when you see everything falling apart, I want to ask you a question, though, a follow-up question. Who's investing in the Black community? Who's investing in Black people? And if the answer is nobody, then I ask you, why would you expect the community to do anything other than to decay and fall apart? Do you understand? You know, I just, some things that end up growing are things that get fed. That's it. If you have a plant and you don't feed the plant, the plant is going to die. If you have a baby and you don't feed the baby's going to die. There's nothing that grows without you putting time into it. If I have a painting and I say I want to make this painting and I don't put any time into creating the painting, then the painting is, there's not going to be a painting. If I have a project and I don't put any time into the project, then the project is not going to get done. If I have a fitness plan and I don't put in the work, then it doesn't matter. I'm going to get fat. If I get married and I don't spend any time with my spouse, I invest no time in my spouse and my children, then my marriage is not going to last. So I just kind of want you to ask yourselves, why would this not be true for the Black community? Every time you hear a story about Black communities falling apart, families falling apart, tragic things happening to Black children or excessive Black poverty, I want you to ask yourself two questions. One, who's investing in the Black community? The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about why the community is falling apart. And then two, I want you to ask, who do we expect to invest in the Black community? What Superman are we waiting for? I know it. You're waiting for white people, and white people don't give a damn, nor should they give a damn, and then your community falls apart. I mean, you are the superhero that you've been waiting for. If you abandon your own people, then why would you be surprised when the Democratic Party abandons your people? When you abandon your people, why would you be surprised when white people abandon your people? When you abandon your people, why would you be surprised even when celebrities abandon Black people too? I have to fight with people whenever I say, that celebrity just spent $100 million with white people. Maybe he should invest 10 million of that 100 million into the Black community. Do you know how many Black people I have to fight with who somehow think that was an outrageous thing to say? That literally think I'm a hater because I said that? That's and I don't understand it, because that's almost like saying that a father is supposed to spend time with his kids and not the neighbor's kids. But for some reason, for whatever reason, we've been trained to believe that we're not worthy of anybody's investment. Now, of course, I'm not going to change my position. I'm going to stay the same. I'm going to keep saying exactly how I say it. But I just want you to pay attention to those debates. And when you see those debates happening, when you see people abandoning something, think of it like a business. Pamela Coakley, if you and I see your comment in here, someone uses my example. Pamela, if you and I start a business together, and we go fill out the paperwork and say this is the Pamela and Boyce business, C&P Incorporated or PNC Incorporated, and then let's say that that we start working and we have this opportunity to make money, but we have to develop a product. We have to have business meetings, things like that. And imagine if every time you call me for a meeting, I say, Pamela, I ain't got time. And, or every time the business needed something, you said, oh, well, I got to go to work. So you got a job, you got to go to work. And I just don't want to do it. I'm like, well, I got an extra hour, but I'm going to spend that time watching Netflix. So I'm going to spend that time doing the things that matter to me. What kind of business are we going to have? Is that business going to be successful? Does that business have a chance in hell of succeeding? No, it does not. It can't succeed because in order to have a harvest, you must plant a seed. The only thing you can pull something out of are things that you put something into. You can only extract something good out of something that has been poured into, including your damn children. So when you look at the Black community and you see it falling apart and you see the infrastructure deteriorating, you see no businesses, you see broken families, you see kids being shot down everywhere, ask yourself that basic question: who's investing in the Black community, and who do we expect to invest in the Black community? I dare to say that your biggest problem, our biggest problem, is that we have gotten in the habit of believing that that is the job of white people. That somehow somebody miraculously is going to come along and fix a problem that does unfortunately belong to us. That I'm like that, we become like that guy who, you ever know a guy like this who will make like 18 kids, and then you'll be like, how the hell are you gonna take care of 18 kids? And then he says something like, well, don't worry about it. My baby's mama got them. Their mamas got them. So they're gonna be all right. Somebody gonna get them. You ever see that? Like literally, it's the craziest thing. It's the dumbest thing for a father to say. Like you literally are just under the assumption that after your raggedy ass went around and populated half the earth, that somebody's going to just come along and take care of your responsibility. Somebody's going to take care of your kids. That is not a healthy mindset. And I see it everywhere. I fight it all the time. I was in a fun back and forth with a comedian. I'm not gonna say his name, but he made jokes about being a terrible father, and I admit it triggered me. It got me going. Like why in the world do you think it's funny that you're traumatizing your children by being a crappy father? Do you understand how that little boy feels when he wants to spend time with his daddy, and his daddy ain't thinking about nothing but liquor, weed, and getting more sex from women? Like, that's it. Like, do you understand what the pain that kid goes through? And do you understand what kind of a menace to society you're releasing on the rest of us when you got this child that you poured nothing into? You did nothing to help this kid to become a productive member of the Black community because you're too busy chasing sex or whatever you're doing. And you just somehow think that's okay. And then other people, because the guy, he's a little bit famous, he's talented, he's funny. Hold on. And this guy, and what's crazy to me is that we co-sign all that. Like there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of Black people who will just simply stop and say, shame on you. Shame on you for neglecting your kids. Shame on you for impregnating women and not taking your responsibility. Shame on you for not doing the things you need to do to hold down your part of the community. And what I really think, though, here's the thing. I can't blame them entirely because that's what white supremacy does. That's how it was designed. White supremacy was designed in such a way where I believe, they never wanted the Black man to be a man. They don't want the Black man to think about grown man stuff. They don't. They kind of want the Black man to look at himself as a child or an imbecile. Like you're just sitting there like and you walk around and you go, oh, pretty girl, right? And so you're running around having sex, sitting around doing nothing, and you somehow are led to believe that you're just kind of this non-entity with no accountability, no responsibility, run away from responsibility every chance you get. And they promote this in movies, by the way. This is promoted heavily in movies. I pointed this out to my son. I told him, I said, look at this movie right now. We were watching Transformers, and I said, notice how in this movie the white man is the brave alpha male who solves the problem, who stays cool under fire, who pulls out the gun and comes up with a solution because he takes accountability of putting the community on his back so that he can become the hero in the battle against evil. Right? That's what it is. It's like, oh, they're coming. Oh, we got to get the guns. Get ready. You go over there. You stand on that station. You pick up the trenches now. Right? That's what the white guy does. And then I said, look at the black guy. The black guy is sitting there like the biggest punk you ever saw in your life. He's like, oh Lord, I don't want to get shot. I can't. I'm gonna go to jail. Is I gonna go to jail? Look, Leroy, pick up the gun. Look, I can't go to jail. I'm too pretty to go to jail. That's what the black guy ends up doing. Right? The black guy ain't taking no responsibility or accountability. He's scared to death. He's a little coward. He's a punk. He's not solving any problems. Nobody can stand behind him and get support. He's the comic relief. That's why you have so many black males that become really super famous, super rich comedians, because they perpetuate this image of the black man as being just a complete clown. Not a leader, not a soldier, not a winner, not a champion, not somebody other people can depend on. Just the clown that just tells jokes and get scared. That's it. And I hate those roles. If you watch Tyrese and Ludacris's roles on Fast and Furious, that hovers in that space. Not completely though. Ludacris's character is like a computer expert, right? So he's really smart. But if you watch, they do a step and fetch it kind of routine where they're usually afraid whenever the brave men are like fighting, like, you know, and they get these racially ambiguous guys where they're kind of white, kind of non-white, and you're not really sure. It's like Vin Diesel and The Rock and the other white guy, Paul Walker. They're the ones who are taking on the bad guys. They're the ones who are out fighting and doing all sorts of. Ludacris and Tyrese's characters are in the back telling jokes, being afraid, and then arguing with each other. Right, like again, step and fetch it. Now you's a fool. No, you a fool. Get over here, fool. Why you coming here, fool? He got me in the headlock. Right, and it becomes really, really funny. That they do, and they had and I remember once I wrote an article about a Transformers movie like that, where these were robots, but you could tell that two of the robots were clearly black. They were clearly urban. It was made a long time. It was made like in 2011. I think it was like the first or the second one. Go look at it. And these robots were really funny, but they did that same traditional step and fetch it role, and it was clear that they were black. Like they had a real urban-y kind of, nah, fool, nah, boy, you get your ass over here, boy, right? And they did the same thing. They would start fighting each other, or when the battle happens, they would run and be scared, and they would hide, right? That's the role that they perpetuate of black men. So this is why, and I want you to translate this into what you see in your community, right? I want you to kind of understand why you have so many men that just run away from responsibility. Because they have no idea what masculinity looks like. And maybe they think masculinity means drinking a beer and putting your penis into a woman's vagina. That's what they think that's what they think it starts and it ends. But they don't understand that masculinity, there's a version of masculinity in leadership in terms of defending territory that has existed for the last 100,000 years of humanity, where the most masculine males are the ones who stand in the role of warriors and kings, or the warrior king, who is defensive and protective of the territory, the men, the women, and the children. They make sure that the invaders don't come in and wreak holy hell on everybody inside the kingdom. Those men, unfortunately, they do exist, but those are not the men that media wants to point to, because they need black men to fall in line, right? So the way to do this. This is an old tactic of white supremacy. This is an old racist thing. You get the gay men, you make them the most popular men in the black community. So all the black men want to look like anybody seen that? What was that guy? That one guy, Pharrell. I saw Pharrell sitting next to one of the rappers, and they were dressed in like this really gayish Paris fashion, and these little tiny glasses, and they had their legs crossed like little girls, and they look like two little old ladies at church, right? But so black men see this and they say, oh, if I want to get those same opportunities, I have to be like that. I have to dress like that, right? I have to appear non-threatening. So you get the gay guys, you get the comedians, because comedians, nobody's scared of a guy telling jokes. That's how you make white people comfortable. It's not, it's not a coincidence that we've talked about this, about how many actors, black actors, wear dresses and purses. Like literally, if you did a Google search and you looked up the number of white actors who dressed as women in the last 10 years, that number would be about here. If you looked up the number of black actors who have dressed like women in the last 10 years, that number is here. Now, I want to ask you this. How is this number here lower than this number here when there are about 10 times more white actors than there are black actors? There are some white actors who have dressed like women, but when I ask people, I say, give me examples of a famous white actor who dressed as a woman. They got to go way back. They got to go back to like Mrs. Doubtfire, which is like 1991, 92. That's long. Some of y'all weren't even born in 91. They have to go back to what are some others? I can't. Tootsie, I think Tootsie. Again, another movie from the 80s or 80s or early 90s. They have to go way back. But if you want to find a black man who's dressed as a woman, you only got to go back like about 3-4 months. You could probably find some stuff on Saturday Night Live. You can find some stuff on. There's a ton on Saturday. Just the number of instances of a black man dressing as a woman just on SNL in the last 2 years alone probably exceeds the number of total white men who've dressed as women in the last 20 years throughout all of Hollywood. Am I the only person who thinks that's absolutely insane? Do you guys get what I'm saying? I'm trying to draw the picture so you understand what I'm seeing here. What I'm so this sort of imagery, it bothers me, of course. It's up to us to address that. What it circles back to is that if you are a black man who gets this, and you have black men in your family that want to get this, you have to let them know one important thing. Fixing your community is going to be your responsibility, and it will not happen until you do it. That's it. That's the message. That's the speech on that. Literally, fixing your black community, that's your job. It is not going to happen until you do it. So the question becomes, what are you doing in order to do that? And what areas are you taking accountability? And what areas are you even the whole conversation when I get into and people tell me not to even get into these debates, but I have to as a black man. I got to jump in these conversations. When we talk about even little things like some of the men that make fun of other men who might marry a single mother and take responsibility for their children. And they literally will go on entire marketing campaigns. You got these lazy, pathetic men who literally will market this idea that marrying a single mother makes you a loser. That why in the hell would I marry a single mother? Why am I going to go and take responsibility for all your mistakes when you wanted to go get pregnant by a thug and all that? And it was the craziest thing in the world to me. And because I said, look, if you don't want to marry a single mother, that's okay. You don't have to do that. Nobody's telling you to do that. But don't make fun of the men who are courageous, intelligent, and strong enough to clean up the messes that have been left by lazy ass niggas. And this is the last time I'm gonna use that word. I save that word. I use it every now and then, maybe once at Christmas or something for special occasions. But seriously, that lazy, these guys, these bums that are making all these babies and not taking care of them, and these kids are gonna grow up, become mass shooters. They're going to become gangbangers. They're going to come out here and rape people's daughters and rob people and steal and end up in prison. And you got men that are saying, I know this isn't my son, but I'm going to take him in like he's my own. That man is a hero. He's a hero. You don't make fun of that guy. You honor him because he's doing something you're not willing to do. You say, man, hey, I wouldn't do what you're doing, but hey, bro, thumbs up to you. Here's a beer for you. It's like the soldiers. It's like when my father went to Vietnam. I'm still mad about that to this day. It's still this is y'all getting in my trigger points here. But I remember my father told me about how horrible Vietnam was for him. When he went to Vietnam at the age of 17, and they pushed him out of the airplane because he wouldn't get out. And so he slept in a ditch that night, and he's hearing mortar fire going off, and he's 10,000 miles away from home, scared to death. And so as a result, he just went through this crazy hell. He got into heroin while he was there. He had to fight a heroin addiction when he came home. And so he's been through this hell. He's traumatized through the roof. And first thing he does is he runs into a stupid hippie who calls him a baby killer. You baby killer? Now, mind you, this hippie wouldn't pick up a gun to defend his own mother. This hippie ain't never been through nothing in his life. He has no idea what it feels like to be shot at 10,000 miles away from home. If you depended on hippies like this, these little punk ass college boys who don't want to go fight for the country. If we depended on those people to defend the country, then we might as well start speaking Chinese. We would get invaded tomorrow. They would say, "Oh, America's been taken over by punks. Oh, now Vladimir Putin or and Xi Jinping are just gonna come over and take America because y'all ain't got nobody defending the shores." And so I remember saying to my dad, I said, it's one thing if somebody says, "I choose not to go into the military." I can respect that. But for somebody to have the audacity to call you a baby killer when you went over and did a job that they're unwilling to do, I said, if I was in that space, if I could go back, if I had a time machine, I would find those people and kick them in the face. Because how dare they watch you go do something that is a necessary job? You need your soldiers. You need somebody that's willing to defend the territory. You need somebody that's willing to stand up. You need somebody that's willing to fight. And it's okay if you aren't willing to fight, or you don't have what it takes to fight, or you don't have the discipline to fight, but you sit back and you need to at least show honor and respect to those who do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I see a father or a man who is taking accountability for like all the boys on the football team that ain't got no daddies, or he married a woman and he says, "You know what? These are not my stepkids. These are gonna be my kids. Y'all all belong to me." I see men like that and I say, thank you so much. The community needs you. Somebody's daughter didn't get raped because you're raising him to be a decent young man right now. Somebody's family didn't get robbed. Somebody's child is going to have a decent husband one day because you took the time to. There's going to be one less stripper on a stripper pole because you gave that little girl love when her own damn daddy was too busy chasing women and weed and liquor in order to check in on her. So thank you. Thank you to every father out here that is doing the job that a lot of these Negroes won't do. And so again, I'm not shaming you if you won't do the job, but if you're not willing to do any of the job, I'm telling you to kindly shut your dumb ass up. Shut up. Sit down. Be quiet. The grown-ups are in the room. The real men are going to lead the conversation from this point on. So all the real men, all the strong women, all the people that are committed to black folks that want to pour back into the community, I need you to use your voice and to identify the bums and the losers who want to somehow pee on everything that represents progress in our community. Any man who says, "Oh, well, that's a simp. I would do. He gonna marry some lady, take care of her kids. I would." Just tell him, be quiet. Shut up. He's doing something you ain't willing to do. Sit down. You got 3 babies, mamas, and you ain't taking care of none of your kids. He's 10 times more of a man than you'll ever be. So that's where I stand on this, and I don't care. I'll talk about this till the day I die, because I think that you got to understand what's happening in your community. You have to understand why you're losing. They trained so many of your men to be very weak, and then the women, they've traumatized the women, and the women, y'all ain't perfect either. And I think unless we have honest conversations about this, nothing's ever going to change. And fixing problems in our community, that is our job. We have to do it. If we never do it, it'll never get done. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do in your life? What are you going to change tomorrow? How are you going to pick up the torch a little bit more? How are you going to take on a little more responsibility? How are you going to level up your life? What does that mean for you? I don't know what that means for you. Everybody's different. Everybody's got their demons to fight. But I'm telling you, face the demon and fight that damn thing. Stand up. You can do this. I hope that this was helpful. That's it. I'm not going to read anymore. I have been, I hope, I know this was probably the least reading from the book that we've ever done in our Powernomics meeting. And I hope it was okay for me to go into the areas that I feel like we needed to discuss. I promise you we'll get through this book. Believe it or not, we've only got about 2 more pages left. And then we're going to start on the Black History Reader. And I got that posted up right here. It's already here. Dr. Anderson's books are all at powernomics.com. So if you go to powernomics.com, you can get all of his books. He is a brilliant man. The Black History Reader is so good. Like literally, I can open to a random page and read stuff that you probably never learned in school. Listen to this. I literally opened this one. Let me show you how good the Black History Reader is. I opened the book randomly to page 160. Question 53. How do immigration policies specifically injure Native Black Americans? You're not going to learn this in school. He says, throughout the history of North America, waves of immigrants have entered the country to take advantage of the considerable economic opportunities extended to them and to enjoy the elevated status, respect, and privileges they automatically receive over blacks in the labor force. Since the black descendants of slaves are not immigrants, they are excluded from the privileged status, benefits, and rights extended to immigrants and must compete with every immigrant for basic rights and life resources. Immigrants and blacks compete for space, rights, and economic privileges. Reaching Black America has been a dream come true for immigrants, but it has been a nightmare for many native Black Americans and their forefathers. Space. Although a growing number of legal and illegal immigrants are located in the suburbs, most immigrants find residential and commercial space in urban areas. Once they establish a toehold in the urban centers, they then mark and close that space, which we don't do, using their language, culture, or religion as barriers to encroachment. Within the confines of their closed communities, they concentrate their resources and build socioeconomic enclaves and or niches. Immigrant niches can be found in most urban areas like Detroit, Miami, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, New York, the District of Columbia, San Francisco, and Chicago. After closing their territories, they mark them in their cultural images as Koreatown, Chinatown, Frenchtown, Japantown, Little Cuba, Greektown, or Mexican Town. As their numbers grow, they spread out and gentrify Black areas such as Harlem in New York City, Overtown, Liberty City, and Coconut Grove in Miami, Inglewood, Compton, and Watts in the Los Angeles area, and Sweet Auburn in Atlanta. All these formerly Black-dominated cities are now occupied predominantly by Hispanic immigrants. Numerical displacement means economic and political influence by Blacks in mainstream society, diminished economic influence. Since 1900, the Hispanic population increased from 100,000 to 55 million in 2016. They have surpassed and made Black Americans a minority. Hispanics boast that they are now the nation's new majority minority and will gentrify urban residential areas along with whites and Asians, displacing Blacks. And then he talks about the impact on economics, the impact on employment, the impact on education, the impact on affirmative action. In fact, we should read the section, the little part about affirmative action, since that's a relevant topic in the media right now. Affirmative action programs were originally designed to correct injustices for one race of people, blacks by another race of people, whites, and to eliminate the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow segregation. Today, affirmative action programs have been converted into preference programs for immigrants, though most categories of immigrants are white and have never been negatively impacted by the racism and racial conditions that caused these programs to be necessary. This error can be traced to the Immigration and Reform Control Act of 1986, which effectively required employers to treat immigrants exactly like native-born citizens. Since nearly 90% of all immigrants are classified as white on their immigration records and driver's licenses, why aren't immigrants treated like whites and excluded from affirmative action? Why are they categorized with Blacks only in the instance of affirmative action? Putting apples and oranges in the same category set up a situation where immigrants of any race displace Blacks from the very programs designed to help them. It is not possible to justify including Hispanics, Arabs, Asians, and other immigrants and women who are a majority in affirmative action programs. Yet, in 2016, Black civil rights leaders, elected officials at the highest levels, and other members of the Black overclass publicly supported immigration reform and granting citizenship to 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants that had entered the country since 1990. The Black overclass agreed with those who wanted to reach out and invite even millions more immigrants. Our federal and state governments may have reasons to support increased immigration, but they have a moral obligation to avoid and correct the devastating harm it has caused Native Black Americans. That's one page I randomly grabbed out of that book. Give me a yes or no. How many of you have learned any of that in school? How many of you would have heard anything like that in school? Your kids, would your kids have heard anything like this in a public school? Was there a lie in anything that I read there based on what you have seen? What you know? No. This is why Dr. Claude Anderson is a national treasure. This is why Dr. Claude Anderson, and this is up to us, is a person that should be honored throughout the world in life and in death. Dr. Claude Anderson, in my view, gives us an opportunity to do something that we must do, which is to create our own heroes. There are others out there too. Dr. George C. Fraser, Professor James Small, Francis Cress Welsing. Right? There's so many other people that should be, in our mind, on par or above any celebrity that's on TV, any Negro with a record deal, anybody who's written your favorite book, anybody that that you know in the music or entertainment industry. All these people are secondary to people like this. This is the stuff that you never got to know that has a huge impact on your life, your outcomes, and your opportunities. And this is the stuff that's too politically incorrect to be stated by any of our politicians. That's the next book we're going to read. That's where we're going to go next. Okay. And I kid you not, I put it on a stack of Bibles. I did not plan to read that section. I literally opened the page randomly and I kept reading because I said, oh, he's talking about affirmative action. Think about this. He wrote this before he knew the Supreme Court was going to ban affirmative action, but that's a relevant topic right now. He wrote that before he knew about what's going on right now with them flooding cities like Chicago and New York with people that just came across the border last week. Chicago's got a new black mayor, Brandon Johnson. I think that's his name. And he's literally dropping all of these people from other countries into black neighborhoods and putting black people at the back of the line. In Chicago, they're passing bills to get tens of millions of dollars into the hands of people that just got here and have been denying that money to people who've been demanding it for years, maybe decades. This is the political environment that we're in. But again, it's not going to change until we change. If we don't change, it won't change. Okay. All right. I'm done for tonight. I hope this conversation was good for you. I hope that you learned something today. I know that I know I went hard in different directions, but I let the spirit lead me. I just trust what comes out of my mouth. Hopefully it won't be anything too crazy. And I want to encourage you, do your best, be smart, raise your kids, love your families, invest for your future. That's what's going to make you successful. If you allow me, I'd like to mention a couple things we have going on in the Black Business School. One, the All Black National Convention happens October 20th. It's going to be in Atlanta. You can just not only get passes for your family, but we also have spots if you want to be a vendor. Our vendors make money. Ask any vendor who's been there. There's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of people there that are already prepared to buy black. So it's a great way to build your business. We want to partner with the black business community in a really productive way. Number two, if you want to be a sponsor, you can also do that too. And sponsors get extra promotion. The more you support us, the more we'll do for you. It's a direct quid pro quo. We will have a virtual pass that you can obtain, so you can watch it virtually if that's what you choose to do. Being there is really magical. There's no way to describe how amazing it is to actually be in the room. But if you want to do it virtually, that's totally fine. Also, that text list where I send out the stock selections each week, you can text the word stock to 31996. Just text the word stock to 31996. What I'll do is I'll send you the list of AI stocks that I like right away. I'll also send you once a week, I'll send you a stock that I like and maybe some more stuff along the way. I'll send you the $5 a day investing plan that you can do for your kids. You got to do this now. Your kids, your grandkids. You got to start investing. If you don't have grandkids yet, start investing for them now. Wealth is built by time. Time is a financial asset. So the more time you have, the more money you can build up. Give them a running start. So if you don't have grandkids yet, start investing for your grandkids now. If you don't have kids yet, start investing for your kids now. The more time you put in, the more of a benefit they'll receive. All I need you to do is follow the plan. It's really basic. And don't sell your assets. Just don't sell. That's it. Just don't sell. That's what rich people do. Hold on to what you have. So text the word stock to 31996. I'll send that to you. If you could do that right now, that'd be good. That way we stay connected. Next week we'll be back for more training, and I promise we're gonna go ahead and finish this book. I'm gonna keep myself focused next time. And I enjoyed speaking with you. I love you, and God bless you. And until we meet again, and I'll see you guys real soon. Take care now. Bye bye. Oh, and let me mention this. I see Kabibi is in here. I'm going to be visiting with Kabibi's group in Seattle, July 8th, and that's when we're going to do the 4-hour training in Seattle. So if you'd like to join us there, just go to boycewatkins.com. There's a link there with all the information. It's July 8th. It's 4 hours. We're going to do a deep dive on my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So in the event that you want to fly to Seattle or you live in the area, you're certainly welcome to join us there. All right. Have a good day, everybody. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.